I'm Yao Li from the University of Central Florida. I'd like to present our paper, How Not to Measure Social Network Privacy, a Cross-Country Investigation. It's a collaborative work between me and Reza and Bart from Clemson University. A little bit about the background and the motivation of the work. Many privacy-related concepts are considered multidimensional. For instance, privacy concern can be measured using CFIP and IUIPC, both of which measured privacy concern using several dimensions. Also, the privacy concern on social network size can be multidimensional too, and the dimensions reflect more of the interpersonal aspect in privacy. The information disclosure behavior on social network sites is multidimensional as well, which can be depicted using 4 dimensions. Secondly, privacy is a culture-specific concept, meaning that while it is a culturally universal concept, the specific privacy perceptions and mechanism vary from culture to culture. For instance, previous work has already shown that people in individualist cultures have less privacy concern, have more privacy concern, more privacy protection behaviors, disclose less about themselves, have diverse social ties on social network sites, and focus more on individual privacy, whereas the people in collectivistic cultures has lower privacy concern, lower protection behavior, and disclose more about themselves in general, and have more close ties on social network sites and focus more on the interactional aspect of privacy. Despite there has been many studies that conceptualize and dimensionalize privacy concepts, most of them are based on samples from one single country and often a Western country. However, different countries have different cultures where people perceive and behave privacy differently. So the question that remains unexplored is whether these existing dimensions can be generalized to different countries. Also, there has been a lot of work that compare levels of privacy concern, the amount of information disclosure, the amount of privacy behavior between countries. All of them assume that, most of them assume that this privacy related concept shares the same underlying dimensions. So what if the underlying dimensions of privacy are not the same or are not invariant between countries? To answer these questions, we performed 2 surveys across US, China, and South Korea. The first survey was in 2018, where we measured general disclosure and information disclosure. So the general disclosure has the amount, the accuracy and valence of disclosure, which is an existing scale of 12 statements, and information disclosure has 22 different types of personal information that are commonly shared on social network sites. And we asked participants whether they are willing to share each type of information on their social network sites. Survey 2 was distributed in 2018, and we measured privacy concern and privacy management strategies. Privacy concern is an existing scale, which has like 17 statements, and privacy management strategies was self-developed based on the privacy features available on Facebook. Once we got the data, we performed a 3-step data analysis. The first step, which is also the first row in the table, is the exploratory factor analysis. So the lowercase a to g are like the survey questions we asked, or we call them observed items. And factor F1 to F3 are the latent factors that drive participants to make their response to each observed item. So in the EFA, we allow paths from each factor to each observed item, and then we find those that are statistically significant. Based on that, in the confirmatory factor analysis, we grouped the items that are significantly load on one factor. So this is the factor model or measurement model. Each factor only loads on, each item only loads on one factor once. And also that we did this country by country, which means that the factor models can be different between countries. And in the last step, we compare the differences between countries. For instance, item B and item E loads onto factor 2 in country 1, but factor 1 in country 2, we made it into a separate factor, fx, and we test its correlation with factor 1 and factor 2 in both countries, and we test how significant the difference is. So in other words, we want to test whether the cross-country differences are significant or not. Based on the data analysis, we first found that the privacy concerns are categorized or dimensionalized differently between the 3 countries. First, in China, in the Chinese sample, there is no territorial privacy concern in the Chinese sample because the 3 items just did not converge in the Chinese sample. And we also find that the information concern was divided into 2 subdimensions in the US and Chinese sample, control and awareness, but they are the same thing. They are one thing in the Korean sample. In terms of the information disclosure, the more than 20 different types of information are grouped very differently between the 3 countries. In the US, the 2 dimensions are public online profile information versus the private contact information. So profile information is a different category from contact information. However, in the Chinese and Korean sample, contact and demographic information are grouped together, and a new dimension of social association information emerged. So the information items are categorized very differently between the 3 countries. And in terms of general disclosure, which consists of 3 dimensions, amount, accuracy, and valence. Amount and valence are highly correlated in the US sample, whereas accuracy is a separate dimension. However, in the Chinese and Korean sample, the amount and the accuracy are highly correlated, and the valence is a separate dimension, which means that participants in the 3 countries categorize the 3 dimensions of general disclosure differently. Lastly is the privacy management strategies. So we only compare US and Korea because the Facebook is unavailable in China. So in the US, the strategies are divided into manage information sharing by myself and manage information sharing initiated by others. So it's either information shared by oneself or information reviewed by others about myself. And in Korean, the strategies are divided into managing the current online social networks and managing unsolicited interactions from unknown people. So the perspective to group the privacy management strategies are completely different between the 2 countries. So what does these findings tell us? Firstly, it's the conceptual implications, because our findings uncover different privacy conceptualizations in different countries. The 4 privacy-related concepts means fundamentally different things in the 3 countries. And when people think of this concept, they focus on different aspects. And also, our work resonate with existing cross-cultural theories. For instance, in privacy management strategies, the 2 categories in the Korean sample, managing current audience and managing unsolicited interaction from unknown people. The first one is similar with in-group members, and the second one is more about out-group members, which are correlated with the in-group and out-group associations in the cross-cultural theory. And lastly, our work also provides methodological implications, because we verify that privacy management developed in one country may not work in another. So we suggest future work validate privacy management before applying to different populations of different countries, different cultures. We also suggest future work develop culturally invariant measurement for privacy concept. Thank you.